This video is brought to you by Squarespace. I don't really care what photographs you take, and I certainly have no control over the quality of those photographs. Photography is very subjective. It comes down to time, place, personal style, and taste above everything. And when I make these videos, as the years have gone on, I do find it harder and harder to sit here and offer 5 things to improve your street photography, or do this one thing and your photography will 10 times. Whatever that means. What I can offer you is my mindset, attitude, my habits and my practices that mean when I go outside, first of all, I have a great time doing street photography, and it is a little bit rewarding. Now, it being rewarding is a difficult one because street photography is, in my opinion, one of the most difficult styles of photography to get good at, but it's also one of the most accessible. So that's partly why so many people do it, partly why it's so fun, because there's no rules, no boundaries, no limits, just head outside, and that is street photography. So there's 2 things there. I don't know what the third thing was. Anyway, I'm gonna share with you 16 or 15 things that I do when I head outside that are in my noggin. These are not practical tips in terms of do this with your camera or do this with the foreground or make sure you focus at da-da-da-da. It's nothing like that. These are things that I think about constantly when putting one step in front of the other, doing street photography. Hopefully that little waffle has given you some insight into what we're going to talk about today. Without further ado, let's dive straight into it. Idea number 1, and this is an absolute must before you even get off the train or get out your car or step foot out your door, and that is to understand that you will not take any good photographs today. Drop the pressure, focus on seeing and not achieving. The goal is to learn to see, to become better at observations, because the end result of photography is very ambiguous. Do you want them to go to print? Are you making a book? Are you posting on Instagram? Are you showing a friend, or are you just a tourist for the day? Whether or not you take any good photographs isn't really the point. The point is to get better at using our eyeballs. Don't worry about taking good photographs, just focus on seeing. And if you get better at seeing, I can almost guarantee that you'll get better results from it as well. Number 2, be a good person. I don't think I need to say much else here, but kindness, respect, not being an arsehole are definitely some of the things that I try and keep in mind when taking photographs. No matter how important or impactful or one of a kind that moment is, if it meant that someone else was on the wrong side of that moment, I'm not sure it was worth it. Now, it's hard to speak in absolutes. There are always caveats with this stuff because street photography is almost impossible to guarantee what's going to happen. And the world is kind of fascinating in that way. But I think just being a good person is rule number 2. I think rule number 1 is accept that you're not going to take any good photographs today. That eases the pressure. But rule number 2 is also don't be annoying. Number 3 is very similar to kind of what I just said before, but this is about your mood. So think happy, be happy. Your attitude will influence the photographs you take. And if you're not feeling it, grab a coffee, sit down for a bit. If you're overthinking things or you're just not quite in the mood, then put it to one side and do something else. Street photography, photography in general, for a lot of us, is a hobby. So just make sure you're having a good time. Number 4 is 1, 2, 3 compositions. Now, this is something I learned from Matt Stewart. I did a workshop with him in 2023 in Lisbon, and he made a point of saying that a lot of great photographs we enjoy looking at have not 1, not 2, but 3 main elements that work together. So this is more of a compositional play. It's a little bit more practical, but the idea is if you've got one thing in focus, one focal point, how can 2 or 3 or 4 or an infinite amount of things around that thing complement the photograph? Whether it's the color, the shape, the form, the motion, if you can have 1, 2, or 3 elements that bring it all together, it starts becoming quite compelling. But take a look at some of your favorite photographs that you've taken and some of your favorite photographs from other photographers and see where your eyes land. Do your eyes go 1, 2, 3? Do your eyes just land on one thing and that's it? I imagine most of the time there's at least 2 things, but potentially 3 things that make the photograph work. I think about that a lot when I'm shooting. If I see one thing that I enjoy, I think, what else could I add to this? What else could make this a more compelling image? Number 5, and I absolutely love this one. This is about the decisive moment. Often it isn't the moment that's the best moment. It's sometimes right before or right after a thing has just happened. Now, I understand that the decisive moment isn't such a black and white term that we can just, that's the decisive moment, story over. Because most of the time, if something's happened, it's taken a few moments for that thing to happen. Occasionally, it might only be a split-second thing. If you can anticipate something happening, the emotion or the energy or the thing that's in frame often looks more curious or questionable or out of place before and after the thing has happened. Sometimes when you take a photograph of the thing, it's just a thing. It's just obvious. It's like, here's that thing that happened. Cool. But if you can get people's reactions after it or someone's anticipation before it, those expressions and those emotions are sometimes the most interesting. Idea number 6 is that lightning really does strike twice. And I think this is such a practical, joyful thing to keep in mind when out shooting photographs, because if you've just seen something that is incredibly rare, extremely random, or just there's a remarkable coincidence taking place in front of you, if the environment and the scene around that thing hasn't changed too much, there is actually a high chance that it could take place again. And what I mean by that is if you see a child throwing an ice cream at someone else, or a group of women in clothes that match the shop front they're walking in front of, or a group of people belly laughing, or twins doing the same expression, mirroring each other, something that is quite unique. If nothing else has changed around them, if that same scenario is playing out, then they might just repeat that behavior. Because often I will see something that happens in front of me and I missed it for a few seconds, but then I just wait 8 more seconds, and then those people go ahead and do that random thing that they were doing. Because for whatever reason that made them do it in the first place, what's to say it won't happen again? So lightning really does strike twice. I've taken countless photographs where I thought I missed the moment and then it went and happened again. So I love this one. I always try and remember this one. And this keeps me motivated. This keeps me positive when in the street, because we miss stuff all the time. But just because you missed it the first time doesn't mean you'll miss it the second time. Number 7 is about triggers. And you might have heard this a lot before in the street photography world. People talk about triggers all the time. And this is just about understanding them and making note of them. Because if you look at many of your photographs afterwards and see that they're quite similar, they all follow a similar theme or rule, you can then decide what you want to do with that. Do you want to continue taking photographs of people in hats, or do you want to avoid that for the future? Understanding what seems to be your trigger will guide your future photographs. For some reason, I've found that a lot of my photographs include the color red. It's a very simple trigger, but I'll continue to think about that when I'm out in the street. Understanding what it is, what makes you smile, what makes you cringe, what makes you pause, just the things you enjoy when out in the street. Make note of them, understand them, make record of them, look out for them in your photographs, and then you can decide if you want to do more of that or if you want to do less of that. So there's a whole conversation about street photography triggers, and that word might be overused, but I think it's an important one to understand at the very least. I'd just like to take a moment to pay some bills real quick, and I appreciate the support from today's sponsor, Squarespace. This should really go without saying by now, but I've been using Squarespace for years to host my portfolio of photography. I sell presets, I sell physical products, my camera straps were launched earlier this year, and the whole thing was made seamless, and it was so easy to manage and understand using Squarespace's online shop. Everything I do regarding my photography and my online business is run through Squarespace, so it wholeheartedly has my recommendation. If you have no idea how to set up a website, worry not, because there are hundreds of beautiful templates to get you started, or you can let AI do all of the heavy lifting and have a website up with complete ease. So if you've got a creative project or a side hustle, or you've got anything going on and you want a space online for you to host that, Squarespace will make it happen for you. So why not at least start a free trial and see what you think? After that, when you're ready to launch, go to squarespace.com/Mike Chudley to save 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. Thanks again to Squarespace for the continued support. Let's get back to it. Idea number 8 is your personality. Now, this is a difficult one to explain, but I'm going to have this conversation anyway, and let me know what you think in the comments. When you go through the steps of photography or any creative pursuit, I guess, there are certain metrics that crop up along the way that tell you you're doing the right thing. Certain exposure techniques or rules and guidelines, or your technical ability to get the camera settings correct. Whatever it is that tells you you're taking the correct photograph, whatever that means. What about when you don't take the correct photograph? What happens when you take a photograph of something that isn't usually that interesting, but it ends up being interesting? It's because your personality was shining through. This comes down a little bit to your taste, to your style. And I think understanding your taste and style it's like an endless pursuit. So I don't want to talk about that too much. But If you find something truly interesting, but then you question it because, that won't get many likes on Instagram, or not many other people find that interesting, don't do that. I'm thinking of some friends right now. When I see their photograph, or when I see a photograph they've taken, and I don't see the caption and I don't see the name of the person who's photographed, instantly I know this was their photograph, because they always shoot like that. They always have that slight angle, or they always color their photographs in a certain way, and it identifies me with them and their personality and their style. Now, this doesn't mean that you should go out there and just willy-nilly take photographs in an incorrect manner. Follow the guidelines, understand the rules, but know where to break them. But show a bit of personality. Don't just take the correct photo. Don't just take the thing that's obvious. Just try and put your own spin on it. And this is a difficult one to explain, because this is going to be different to every situation you're in. But some people's photographs look like that person that's taken it. Other people's photographs look like anybody could have taken it. I hope that made sense. Idea number 9, and this is less philosophical and elusive to my previous points, quite a fun one, and that is to collect quirks. This might be a funky walking stick, someone's funny outfit, a balloon, animals, anything that's just not quite everyday, something that stands out that's not normal. Now, this doesn't mean that those images are going to be great. It doesn't mean they're going to be good. It just means you're observing things. You're looking for stuff that breaks the pattern. Everything around us is normal and mundane, so when something does stand out, it's fun. It can be a joyful thing to notice. So do what you want with that information. You don't have to take a photograph of every person that has an interesting hat, but the simple observation of it is a good practice to keep in mind, because when we're scanning the streets, we're walking down Oxford Street, for example, in London, most things look the same every time I'm there, but occasionally something will stand out. So just keep an eye out for what that might be. Idea number 10, and this is maybe the most obvious one of them all, but it needs to be said. Always have your camera ready. The goal with street photography is, in my opinion, to be at the right time in the right place. But you have no idea where that right time and right place is, or when it is. So if you put your camera away before you get on the underground, or you put your camera away before getting in your car, or you only get your camera out when you're on the main street wherever you are, maybe don't do that. Maybe keep your camera out, keep it ready, get some extra batteries, whatever the reason is that you're putting your camera away. Try and solve that problem. Keep the camera out, keep it ready for action. I've taken many fun photographs when I didn't think I would. There's been many times where I'm walking to the corner shop, or I'm walking in the park, or I'm on my way to the destination, and a photograph presents itself. So I think it's an obvious one. Always keep your camera ready. You've probably heard that before, but seriously, always keep your camera ready. Idea number 11 is to do this thing everywhere, not just on the street. I took a photograph of my bathroom the other day. The light was exquisite. The colors were popping. It might be my favorite photograph of the year. This sounds so silly to say out loud, but this game of observation can be applied everywhere, not just in a city or on the street. So wherever you go, just keep an eye out for the lights, for the colors, for the way things look. Sometimes I can't even turn that part of me off. And it actually becomes annoying, because if I'm ever hanging around or waiting or just chilling for a second, I'm looking around what's in front of me. I'm looking at the way things are aligned and the color of certain things and the way the light hits certain stuff. It's an endless game, but it's a fun pursuit. Don't think about street photography as it's a thing that we have to do in the street. You can take photographs anywhere, and quite literally, without sounding corny, there is beautiful things all around us. Idea number 12 is probably the most practical, simple idea of them all, and that is to ditch the sunglasses. This was another Matt Stewart comment from our workshop in Lisbon. Matt Stewart said, anyone that wears sunglasses immediately removes that connection that you can have with everyone around you, because nobody can see your eye contact, and that's important. You want to keep a positive, body language. You want to show nice, friendly body language. And if no one can see your eyes because you've got cool sunglasses on, then it's a little bit not approachable, not as approachable. It's not as friendly. So I always keep that in mind. I never actually wear sunglasses now. I probably should sometimes when it's, we're in Lisbon, for example. But Matt was making the point. If you wear sunglasses, people can't identify you as easily. So you want to keep the rapport and the friendliness and the respect of everyone around you in the street. Don't wear sunglasses. But also, if you are on your own somewhere out and about, just observing daily life, like I just mentioned a minute ago, then you can wear sunglasses if you want. But it's just a very simple idea that I never thought about before, that as soon as you put sunglasses on, you lose that connection with people because they can't see your eye contact. So something to think about. Idea number 13 is keep it simple. F8 and be there. You've probably heard that before. But seriously, keep things simple. 500th of a second, maybe 1,000th of a second, f5.6, maybe f8. What else do you need to know? Especially if you're shooting digital like auto ISO, rock and roll, off you go. Idea number 14 is to take the photograph. Don't overthink, worry about everything else later. If you see something that catches your attention, just grab the photograph, dive straight into it, take as many photographs as you can, however many feel comfortable for you, get going. One of my favorite quotes is, "It's easier to change direction of a moving ship than a still one." If you're stood there thinking about it, you're not going to take the photograph. So less thinking, more doing. The caveat here is obviously we all have our own moral compass. So if you see something happening in front of you and you don't think it's appropriate to take a photograph of it, then follow that instinct and don't take the photograph. If some people are in a vulnerable position for a few seconds, although what's happening might be intriguing or whatever, don't take the photograph. You have to understand that yourself. However, worrying about camera settings, worrying about if you're close enough or if other people are going to like the photo, or even if your composition's any good, just stop thinking about it. It should be more of a, let's get into flow, let's get the ball rolling, let's get moving with this thing. And that has helped me endlessly because I've taken many photographs before that I didn't think I was able to take. I didn't think I was ready, I didn't think I was close enough, didn't think the thing would happen again. I was thinking too much. Stop thinking so much. Just start taking pictures. Idea number 15 is to anticipate moments before they happen. None of us are time travelers. I understand what I just said does sound kind of strange. But street photography is a lot of reactionary things. It's a lot of always being on the back foot. And sometimes that can feel chaotic. Sometimes that can feel like you're always chasing something and always missing something. Keep in mind what I said earlier, lightning really does strike twice. So if you miss something, just keep watching. It might happen again. But this is about learning to spot things before it happens, essentially. And a way to do this that can help is if you shoot somewhere often, you know how a certain light at a time of day hits a building, or you understand that people always bump into each other when they walk around that certain corner, or understanding your environment and keep an eye out for people's behaviors means that in the future, you can keep an eye on that thing potentially happening again. So yeah, anticipate moments. Train your instincts in a certain way to look for patterns and behaviors. Last one before I dive into some more philosophical ideas. Always ask, how can this be better? How can this photograph or this moment or this thing that's about to unfold in front of me, review it and understand what makes it interesting, but what would make it even more interesting? Photography, street photography, sometimes isn't about getting the photographs. Sometimes it really is about the pursuit of the photograph. If I take a photograph I like, my next thought is it as good as it could be? Maybe. Probably not. It probably can be better. So I always like to finish my day of street photography, or even if I'm looking at photographs I've taken or reviewing work or being reflective in any way, what could I do to improve? Because there's always something. None of us are perfect. Don't just have it as some fleeting thought. Actually give it some attention. I want to finish this video with a concept or an idea about photography that I read about and heard about online a few years ago that completely changed how I think about good photographs. And I've got a quote and some references here. And the first thing is from Jeffrey Ladd. I'm not familiar with this person's work, but I think they used it as part of a blog post many years ago. So Jeffrey Ladd said, "A photograph should be more interesting than the subject and transcend its obviousness." In short, the photograph should be more interesting than the thing being photographed. And I want to reference the 1, 2, 3 compositions idea that I spoke about earlier. How can one or multiple elements in the frame align, connect, or contrast to make a more impactful image? What's the relationship between 1, 2, 3 or more things that are happening in that frame that make it more interesting as a photograph than it appeared in real life? That's the true magic of photography. Or as Gary Winogrand once said, photography is not about the thing being photographed. It's about how that thing looks photographed. I just think that's a wonderful thing to finish this video with. Food for thought to take home with you. I mean, you're probably already at home, but I hope you enjoyed this discussion, this conversation. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. I think that's pretty much all I need to say. I'll see you guys on the street. Peace.